Hello everyone, so welcome back to another video. So we've already got some more updates for AC6, that being of course the new gameplay video that's been released, but also PlayStation Blog has just put out some extra details here and some very nice juicy high-res images that we're going to have a look at. So let's just pop this for a moment. Oh my god, so that is the spider type boss that we see kind of about the halfway point in the video, or 3/4 of the way through, with its blades showing. Absolutely love how we can actually see this in just pristine and crisp detail compared to the video, because everything's moving in the video, you know, so you can't appreciate the details and the little callbacks to previous AC games. Anyway, we'll continue here. So, the questions were answered by the FromSoft devs, and this is wrote by Heidi Kemps, the blog correspondent. It says, From Software is one of the most beloved developers around, creating modern classics like Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring that have enchanted and engrossed players worldwide. But let's go back in time, back to 1997, when FromSoft released the cult hit Armored Core on the original PlayStation, and players were enthralled by its mix of intense mech fighting action and strategic customization. The series has been cherished in the eyes of fans since garnering multiple spin-offs and sequels over the years. Now, 25 years after players first built the custom cores, and 10 years after the last entry, AC returns August 25th, and now it's packing plenty of heat. I love the way she doesn't mention about Kingsfield in there at all as well, because AC has a lot of links to Kingsfield with some of its weapons and things. We sat down with From Software to get a first look at gameplay for Armored Core Fires of Rubicon and learn about the latest mech action game. Now here we go, here's another image. I gotta check this out. So this is another shot that's a little bit less blurred. This was from really early on in the gameplay trailer, and this shows off all the details. We can zoom in if we want and see all the normal maps on the feet and all the detailing, but it also shows the massive scale of stuff. The floating parts in the background, or the bits which I can only assume are some kind of facility for mining the planet of its resources or whatever, it looks kind of like that. That reminds me of AC5, but then the layout for some of the other stuff kind of reminds me of a mix of AC5 and AC4. This says, engage in high-speed mech combat. Those whose primary experience with FromSoft comes from games like Bloodborne and Elden Ring might be curious about what to expect from Armored Core. You play a mercenary pilot, piloting a huge customizable mech, yet while the pace and structure of mech piloting action fundamentally differ from other games in the studio's catalogue, players can rest assured that the smooth, responsive controls they've come to expect from the games is still here, just in different context. Think giant, heavily equipped robots able to zip around across ground and air, reacting to lightning-fast speeds and attacks and threats while trying to one-up dangerous foes with even more firepower at their disposal. I love the way they're going for this angle, which is try and get all the Bloodborne people in and all the Souls people, because then it'll introduce new people into the fan base and keep it going. We got a hangar scene here. This is actually the same scene that I think they're doing for the special editions figurine. I think it's exactly the same setup. It's just a different color scheme, or looks a little bit cleaner. I do like how the hangar looks in this so far. Rubicon, the ruined planet. Armored Core 6 is a new story that takes place on the planet Rubicon, where a powerful energy source called coral has been discovered. But this stuff isn't that stuff that looks pretty in aquariums. Coral is extremely volatile, and it's already caused a massive disaster that nearly turned all of Rubicon into ash many years prior. But the futuristic megacorps just can't resist the siren song of coral, and continue to war for it this very day. So yeah, it's the standard thing of the corporations just wanting everything and causing a mess. It kind of reminds me of Armored Core 1, where whole the whole point of Armored Core 1 was that you got locked in underground levels that simulated the environment above, because the corporations basically caused a massive war that ended with everything being more or less nuked on the surface so that it was uninhabitable. So it's the same thing. Again, I'm loving how we're seeing classic AC looking parts. This looks like the mech again that we see a lot of in the trailer. I'm just going to refer to it as the trailer mech for now. But again, this architecture and stuff kind of reminded me of AC5 again. That's not too bad. Because the way that it's done, you can actually see it now in AC5. There was a lot of like dark, heavy contrast in like city areas and stuff. So it was hard to make out all the details. The lighting just looks so good in this. So you can pick apart everything. This mech over here on the right, that is a very interesting one. I think that might be the actual frame that they're giving away as a pre-order bonus or something, if I remember rightly. I went over it in the analysis video that I've done, that I'll put in the info card at the top. But basically, if it is, that's really cool, because it's got a different color scheme on it. It looks really nice. It's harkening back to, again, because I can see more of it, sort of AC2 Emerald style, bulky sort of mech that's got that blocky appearance. And you see some of this stuff in some of Kawamori's other works. Sorry, my brain is just getting blown apart by just how good this is looking right now and how I can pick apart all these details. I have that problem with some of the other AC content recently, where my mind was just like, this is so pretty, and I couldn't chain sentences together really well. You'll see it in the reaction video. But yeah, Kawamori's work on Eureka 7 in particular features very similar designs. The various areas of Rubicon are filled with contrasts as hollowed out industrial ruins from aforementioned disaster smolder beneath the shiny shell of state-of-the-art mining constructs that encase the planet. Yeah, so I was right, they're mining the entire planet. It's kind of like when I mentioned on the other trailer that they released that was before today, the video one, where I said it kind of reminded me of Dune a little bit, the newest interpretation of it, because of the mining spice on Arrakis, and it was giving off those vibes just with some of the shots, and it seems like I was right. It's an intricate, multi-layered world brimming with megastructures and an enormous underground facility built by its former inhabitants. These structures cover the planet's surface, racked with extreme cold and contamination in the aftermath of the Great Disaster. It's just basically AC1's Great Destruction. The player will be exploring these various environments as they proceed, says the game's director, Masaru Yamamura. Let's just open this one. Dude, seriously, I love the little lens flare there, just as a little bit of style choice to it. I'm absolutely loving how this looks. Almost like the AC5 trailers. The original AC5 trailers, where you'd see like the dusty road that was covered in like sandstorm or whatever, and you'd be driving, or the shots showed troops driving past downed AC parts, and you'd have like the wind sweeping up the dust and everything. It's getting to the part now where the games literally are looking a lot like the actual CGI trailers. It's fantastic to see. We've got what looks like Gen 2 or Gen 3 tank treads here, because we can see them more now. What looks like vertical missiles. Could be wrong there. Don't recognize the core, so that might be new. This looks like an over-the-shoulder cannon, possibly a grenade launcher. Can't quite make out what this is. But either way, I love how they're doing this whole thing with blending most of the older stuff together. The expansive environments will deliver an incredible sense of scale, maintaining the quality we've come to expect from Software's world design maestros. And with your armored cores, ACs for short, advanced movement skills, you'll be able to explore these large, open spaces to your heart's content. You'll be encountering lots of different scenery and objectives as you advance through the game's mission-based progression structure, like previous entries. So yeah, we're just going to have like a ton of missions to go through, probably branching as well. There will be missions where you're fighting across sweeping battlefields, very combat-oriented, Yamamura explains, but sometimes you'll be recovering data logs from wreckages and doing other side objectives too. Interesting. Never had that really before. Ooh, this shot here, man. So, I'm liking the way that this looks. It shows the sense of speed that the game's got. Got a very nimble frame here. Kind of reminds me of the second mech that we see in the trailer, which is shown a little bit later in, but has like more of a dark sort of frame. It looks like they've changed it for the screenshot here, because it looks pretty much the same parts. It's the chicken-legged one from the gameplay trailer. It looks really nice. The sense of speed reminds me a little bit of Murakumo, one of the other games for the original Xbox. Just the way that it's set up. Don't know whether it was intentionally designed like that as a way to kind of harken back to that as a little reference, but even if not, it's pretty neat. I'm loving, again, these lens flares. Don't know whether that's actually in-game or not, whether these are just like really high-res shots taken from in-game or whether they've been tampered with just a little bit, but it's looking absolutely fantastic. Loving all these traces and particle effects. They're really putting this technology to good use in terms of making the visuals look really good. Combat features. Assault Boost. One of the biggest new features in Armored Core 6 is the instantaneous switch between long-range gunfighting and close-range melee, thanks to a button-activated movement called Assault Boost. Wait, what? Assault Boost is an offensive action that helps close the gap between enemies and lets you go quickly from long distance to close range. Yamamura tells us it provides some incredible chain abilities when fighting. He describes vividly, you can activate the Assault Boost to make your approach while using machine gun fire and missile salvos to stagger the enemy, and then use your pulse blade to score a direct melee hit when you're up close. Isn't that just like quick boosting then? Sounds like it. This shot here, man. This is probably going to be the video thumbnail. It's that arc. Like we've always seen fans animate blade fights like this, or we've seen fans and even FromSoft themselves try and do like stylized stuff in CGI trailers that looks absolutely fantastic. If this is exactly what it's going to look like in game in terms of like stylistic slicing through enemies like this, showing off all the sparks and everything else, just really making everything look cool, stylish, and impactful at the same time, God, it's going to be brilliant. Again, almost a classic looking pose for an AC blade swing here, but you can tell it's either started here and come round, or something else has happened. I'm not entirely sure. It might be like an over arc where it starts with the blade and its torso facing this way and then fully swings around and ends here. That kind of reminds me of one of the crest heads as well, just looking at these parts. Now, a lot of these parts are looking familiar, which is great. I've said this before in other videos. I've had people questioning, like, what the hell's the deal with AC5? Why do you not like it? It's something I could go into more, but let's just chalk it up to it was a very divisive game, both gameplay-wise and artistically, and a lot of the fan base was divided on it. Stagger, another addition to the series combat, is a stagger element. Okay, this is new. If an AC takes too many hits over a short period of time, its ACS will be overloaded, making it vulnerable for a short time. Ooh. Okay, so how does that impact gameplay? Both continuous and big hits, powerful strikes will cause stagger damage, encouraging you to keep up pressure on the opponent. The damage inflicted to an enemy stagger gauge varies from weapon to weapon. It can also be affected by factors like distance, adding additional strategy in equipping and using these armaments in combat. That's interesting because most of the games that I've played in the past with stagger elements, the stagger is more like a heavy stun that stops you from moving. Almost, it doesn't sound like it would fit really with at least old AC that I'm familiar with. Primarily just because I can't imagine it being fun to constantly get staggered, or get staggered then stop moving and suddenly be knocked out of control. I can see why they've included it as a way to mix up combat. That one's an interesting one to keep an eye on to see how it impacts gameplay and movement, and how the overall gameplay that everybody's come to know and love up until about AC5, how it will change in the new game. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh my god, those particles. Jesus Christ. So we saw this in the trailer as well. We saw the spider leg style AC floating using these little thrusters. You'll notice in the designs for the ACs in a lot of these screenshots that we're getting now, a lot of them have auxiliary thrusters, so it looks like we get hover as an additional feature now, instead of like older AC games where, you know, we used to have to control the boost, and if you wanted to hover, you'd have to kind of emulate it by tapping on the boost button intermittently while you're in midair to kind of control your height and your energy. Instead, this looks like it's either given to these legs as an ability, or like I said, other various things have been added gameplay-wise to allow ACs to hover in midair now for a short period of time. Either way, I'm loving the what looks like laser cannons here. It kind of reminds me of AC4, Noblesse Oblige. It's giving me those sort of vibes, or AC2 and 3 vibes as well. There were some cannons that were basically the same. Not sure what this one on the left is. It's hard to make out because it just looks very spiky. I don't even know whether it's a cannon. It might be a blade weapon, like they've mentioned. Absolutely loving, visual-wise, the lack of post-processing. For fans of the series, you'll know that AC4 was heavily dependent on post-processing, such as bloom and desaturating certain scenes and then giving weird effects to really go crazy with the visuals that made stuff hard to see. I'm messing up my words here. Especially the final boss fight. And for those who aren't familiar with the series, let's just say that AC4 and probably AC5 as well are notorious for messing around with visual effects like post-processing in certain areas to kind of try and tweak the visuals a little bit, but it tends more often than not to result in a very muddy sort of visual quality or overall visual. So I'm really happy that we're back to what looks like very clear and clean visuals, so we can see what's going on without any crazy bloom or desaturation or heavy change in contrast, so that everything is sort of blown out, like the darker colours are blown out so they stand out more. I'm glad we're not getting any of that, seemingly. We asked Yamamura how the pace and feel of the game compares to previous entries. The average movement speed across the game is somewhere between AC3 and 5. Okay, that's not too bad then. So not too fast, not too slow. But AC6 has been developed to bolster the changes of tempo and combat, with instantaneous bursts of speed and changes of tempo. Combat can often reach dizzying heights of, say, AC4. The thing is that AC4, or its expansion for Answer, because that's interesting. That makes it sound like, yeah, we've kind of brought it back in line with the older stuff, but you do get the other bits of speed from, like, the later games. That's more or less what I was asking for when I've done a couple of videos on this going over what I would want. It was basically, just give us back the older AC speed where it felt a little bit quicker and more nimble, but then give us the really quick stuff as well. We've got what looks like a bipedal AC, but with heavy thigh armor by the looks of it. Kind of hard to make out this one. It's more of a blocky design. Looks a little bit more like AC5. So maybe they have included some like blockier parts in that look a little bit crazy. Can almost make out what looks like a tiny head on top here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Dreadnought from Warhammer 40k, but with rocket boosters on its legs. It's going to be interesting seeing what the final designs are for some of these parts. Final challenging bosses. The series' big boss encounters are back. and the metal monstrosities you'll encounter look bigger and more intimidating than ever. Yeah, people were quoting Shadow of the Colossus, but for anyone that's played For Answer, Armored Core For Answer, it's basically the Arms Forts, but just slightly bigger. I did mention that in a bunch of other videos. I love the way that all these speculation videos that I've done and videos where I'm like, dude, this would make sense if they did this. I love that most of these are now turning out to actually be paying off because they've obviously done a lot of the stuff that I wanted, because I mentioned that they should bring arms forts back because they were really popular. There will be a rich variety of powerful enemies of all shapes and sizes. So we're going to get arms forts or something like. We're going to get ACs as usual. Huge combat helicopters, that'll be from AC5. Heavily armored mobile turrets, unmanned heavy demolition machinery, so that's cool. That are programmed to indiscriminately crush intruders. AC6 will offer a number of explosive battle experiences and challenge players to fight against odds and overcome ginormous, more abnormal mechs. This is kind of reminding me of the lore for AC1. Here's the trailer mech again. You can tell because of the shield. These must be said construction mechs by the look of it. So this is reminding me of the lore for AC1, where AC1's lore before the whole giant disaster that causes everybody to go underground states that the underground was built using a lot of like digging machinery and stuff that was developed and became the first pilotable robots called muscle tracers. And it's almost like they're turning around and being like, yeah, you actually get to experience something like that as we've got all this excavation machinery. It just makes sense, you know, before... Oh, sort of, it would feel a little bit like it was before the Great Destruction of AC1, but in this case it's happened after, and they've still got this machinery around, because in AC1 we don't see much of that. We see, like, construction mechs for building bridges and things like that, but we don't get to see a large variety of them. There's only like 3 of them, and they don't really do much with them in any of the other games, so I'm hoping we get more of a variety of that, because it's going to be interesting to see that take on things. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Nier Automata in that sense, if they go further into that. In addition to these larger bosses, you'll fight against other ACs and humanoid mechs in high-octane duels. In Grand From Software tradition, it may take several attempts. Yeah, so they're basically saying, yeah, it might be a bit difficult. Change your AC's equipment to learn and adapt to the boss's quirks. You better prepare yourself, because it'll offer numerous explosive battles that truly test your skills. Let's have a look at what this one is. This one's another... I've noticed a lot of these are like flying around these environments instead of walking. I'm wondering whether these are additional side routes that they were on about before, where you can fly up to them and then float around. This does not look like the trailer mech. This is a different one that has a shoulder cannon and either a radar or a missile launch or something, and then a couple of rifles, and has what looks like reverse joint or chicken legs, as we call them. I absolutely love this detailing, though. Kind of reminds me a little bit of James Cameron's Aliens. The perfect AC. Customization is a key part of the Armored Core experience. You have access to an assortment of parts to upgrade and fine-tune the power of your AC. 4 slots for holding weaponry, 1 in each hand, 2 on the back, give you a lot of space to experiment with custom loadouts. What other kind of weapons are we talking about? Bazookas, Gatling guns, split missiles, plasma rifles, all the perennial favourites. There are a bunch of new close-range weapons as well, so it doesn't look like they've changed too much. But then again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know. Here we go. Here's the 2 machines I was on about. That's the one that I thought was changed and looked like it had a colour scheme for changed to red before. This is the one that I keep calling the trailer AC, against the giant tank thing that we see in the trailer and that we see in the CGI trailer as well that was released a while ago. Noticing this rifle looks very much like one of them from AC4 now. absolutely loving this. I just love the atmosphere that they've got going on, where it's like a little bit of a snowstorm. I say that because it's not a full-on blizzard. You can actually see what's going on. One aspect of Armored Core 6 is melee weapons, exclusively to the left hand. Yamamura continues. These can include a cluster bomb thrower, which is what I was mentioning in the one of the other analysis videos, where I said it looks like it's a weapon that sort of flings out a bunch of missiles. Well, instead, now we know that's confirmed as a bomb thrower. A chainsaw, so they're bringing chainsaws back from ACE5, which is always fun to see. A pulse blade, which I imagine is like the new laser blade or something. Lancers and more idiosyncratic weapons. Since the main weapons are firearms and melee weapons are focused on the strength of individuality. Ooh. Adding custom paint jobs and liveries, and you'll be able to create a unique AC that's all yours. So let's check this out, because this is just shouting AC5 to me, because it looks like they've reused the design, the Stork helicopter, I think it was. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with reusing the design or slightly tweaking it a little bit. This is also the one that they showed off in the trailer, I believe, where I was like, huh, interesting, I wonder where they're going to go with that. Looks like it's got some machine guns, some missile launchers on the sides. Wonder how hard that's going to be to fight. This trailer AC, man, it's looking so freaking good right now, because it's just harkening back to old AC. I can't get over it. I really can't. It's so good the way that they've combined everything. The arena is back. There's more good news for long-time Armored Core fans. The arena, a much cherished mode where you can fight a series of battle against a wide array of specially customized mechs, makes its return to AC6 as the Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program simulated training exercise. What the hell? Siri, shut up. This here. This is what had me interested, because there are a couple of things now looking at this up close that fans will probably think of immediately. But this is reminding me of, I'm trying to remember the proper name of it, for those who have played Silent Line, you'll know them as, I think, the IO9 or IO0 robots, or it's something like that. Basically the like Guardian robots that always have Kurosawas or beam rifles that are high power, and they appear as like mini bosses throughout the game, and they're normally sort of a white color with spotches of like red all over them. This literally looks like one of those, the armor for it at least. It's big, it's bulky, it's got the same kind of shape. I like the triple barrel Gatling guns on the side here, now that we can see those up close, and what looks like a giant auto cannon on the other arm here. But the more interesting thing for me, again, is what I've been saying throughout the other videos, the reaction trailer and the other analysis video, which was that this looks like it's a bolted-on AC5 overweapon or extension weapon. I can't remember what the name of it was. Basically, there were a bunch of weapons in AC5 that were giant, and I mentioned this a little bit in the analysis video. The idea was that AC5 was meant to have these weapons as kind of like giant battlefield changing things that you could use almost like a suicide move in some cases to potentially one-shot your enemy and completely obliterate them. One of the biggest and better ones being a giant missile that launches off a ridiculous, almost ICBM kind of missile that goes off and does a massive amount of damage. And then there's another one which is like a giant sniper rifle. But some of the concepts left out were ones that would, if I remember rightly, there was a mine thrower, and I think this was either left on the cutting room floor, or there was one version that looked very similar to it and instead shot like lasers or a pulse out in an AoE style attack. But instead this one looks very similar and just shoots missiles off it, but we get to see a very close look at it here. It looks really nice. Was the other one from before. It says there are a lot of different AC frames and a lot of colourful characters to fight in the arena, so we hope players confront them all and aim for the top rank. You can even encounter the real version of these opponents while out on missions. These are more formidable than the simulator counterparts, and will confront the protagonist with their own ideals and motives. Sounds a little bit like Last Raven, though. For those who don't know, Last Raven was a game where you can go through multiple different story paths, and during the course of the game you would fight other characters, as well as encountering them in the arena, but it was more or less the same kind of thing. You encounter other characters in giant robots and interact with them before trying to kill them or team up with them. Perfecting your combat skills won't be the only reason you want to return to the front line. There will be multiple endings. Oh, okay, so we are going Last Raven then. New story paths will open up on subsequent playthroughs, giving players plenty of incentive. Yeah, so we are going Last Raven. This is like... This is... Oh, okay, this is nuts now then. We've got a giant supercomputer here, which... Or it looks like a giant supercomputer. It might be wrong there. It looks like the interior of the data center from Armored Core 1, the very last level, which is Raven's Nest. It looks kind of like that, but it also looks here like there's some sort of either lighting or a generator. Not too sure. Also kind of reminds me of some of the particle generators or particle containers that were for Kojima Particles in AC4. With the pedigree that From Software has, with a long-running series behind it, AC6 is going to be one to watch for the fans. Indeed it is, after being hungry for like 10 years. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack, and basically it comes down to, we threw everything that was good from the other games at the wall, and it stuck. We've combined it all together. We hope you enjoy, and just for the sake of it, we even did a Last Raven where we put in loads of missions and loads of different story routes, so you won't be bored. So yeah, take this as a little bit of an apology for 10 years of not touching the franchise, because we were busy making Souls and other games. Oh boy. So it's gonna be fun to see where this goes, and I'm loving all of these images. Hope you guys have enjoyed another breakdown yet again, and I hope to see you in future. So until then, bye!